Hey everyone, welcome to the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, our CannaCast today. Today we have Isaiah Roberts with us, the man behind the camera.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Doing good. It's
Good.
getting the first episode jitters out, so I think everything will be right. So, please don't get on me if you ever catch me like in a tense moment trying to cool down.
Hey, you know what? It's all good. We're all in this together.
Absolutely.
We thank everyone for joining us today. And we also have another person that I would like to introduce. Her name is Erica Lambert. Erica is our new membership recruiter. Erica, say hi to everyone.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. Love being with you guys. And Isaiah, I'm right there with you with the jitters. As you guys can see, my camera is not working, but I'm here.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here.
Yeah.
So as you all know, every week we introduce and we interview one of our members. And today we have Mike DeLuca with us. But before we get to him, there hasn't been that much in the news today, but we do want to give a shout out to a Metro Detroit dispensary who is still giving free joints to vaccinated people. Anyone in the Walled Lake area, check out Greenhouse of Walled Lake. Go in and get hooked up. Erica,
Yeah.
you want to go ahead and introduce Mike for us?
Yeah, we have Mike here from House of Dank, one of my buddies. We are such good friends. I love this guy so much. If you guys haven't had a chance to meet him, he is doing really good things for House of Dank. How's it going, Mike?
Really well. That's quite an introduction. I hope that I can live up to it.
You definitely can. You definitely can.
That's going to be tough, but no, it's great to be here, and we are obviously we're members of the organization, and it's been fantastic so far, and it's really great to have this opportunity to kind of share what's going on here at HOD and sort of talk a little bit about the industry and some of the things that you guys are seeing and what we're seeing, and just sort of share some time together, which is cool. I dig it.
Absolutely. Mike, can you give us a little bit of history about your background and what brought you into the cannabis space?
Sure. I think first and foremost, what brought me into the cannabis space is that, I've always been a heavy cannabis smoker. I mean, let's just come right out and say it. I think that, growing up, many of us, I mean, I'm 45, so you kind of find two tracks in life. There were, my buddies that were more beer drinkers. And then, as we got a little bit older, there were those of us that turned a little bit more toward cannabis. I was always, on, more team cannabis than I was team Budweiser. And, now after 20 some years of legal practice, doing all financial services and working in insolvency and at large firms in both the Illinois, Chicago area and Detroit, I got into the cannabis industry in 2017. Working as a real estate broker and general counsel for some ancillary members of the community. And then from there, joined Cannabis Attorneys in Michigan as a partner with Denise Policella. While there, I led her municipal application team as well as her corporate team. And that allowed me to really meet even more and more of the men and women that make up this industry here in Michigan. And then from there last year, I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to join House of Dank, which I think is really one of the OG members of the cannabis community in Michigan and really the world when you think about it. I mean, I like to talk about HOD as look, we are legitimately like America's original dispensary. When it really comes down to it, there's really nobody older. Most of the companies that were around when we started are not around now. So we think that kind of is something neat that we want to try to lean into a little bit more. So when that opportunity arose, I certainly jumped at it.
Wow. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Thank you.
It's been an interesting ride, I mean, I went to Notre Dame Law, right? So, fairly conservative. And I think I was like the only liberal at Notre Dame, like legit. Okay. This was, the late 90s. And then coming from there and seeing, some of my classmates who are politicians in mostly red states, who all work for big law and are a little bit more, ultimately a little stodgier than I am. But it's really interesting coming from that background and getting into cannabis, you know what I mean? Whereas I think that many of the colleagues that I meet that are in this business are from more traditional, like progressive schools, ultimately, you know what I mean? Be it, Michigan, Stanford, Wayne State, really great legal education, but it's a different culture ultimately than Notre Dame. So I think that that's what is so unique. When I talk to some of my Notre Dame people, they're just, they can't wrap their head around that this is even possible, that I'm in this industry and doing this. So
That's so awesome to hear.
So were there like ever moments while you were at Notre Dame, you know, because you can definitely kind of feel when you're in a room around like-minded people. Did you ever have those moments back then where you just kind of felt like you were like isolated just because of like your way of thinking and how, you know, like ways should be?
100%, dude. 100%. Okay? Like, and on stuff we won't even think about, yo. Okay, so like we were in class once, and we were talking about some case, and I don't recall the specifics of the case, but something about, you know, I mentioned the term condoms. All right, we were talking about, you know, safe sex ultimately at Notre Dame in like '98. So this woman, a classmate of mine, approached me in the library to be like, you can't say that here ultimately. Like, what are you talking about with, you know, you can't talk about condoms or this, that, the other thing. And it was at that moment that I knew that, you know, one of these things is not like the other. All right. Like, I'm not sure I completely belong here, you know, but I think that is a small taste of Notre Dame for sure. It was definitely a different place, but pretty unique for sure. But that was the one that stands out more than anything, Isaiah. It was just like, whoa.
Yeah, we can definitely all, you know, relate to that and just feeling alone. But one thing, you know, I can't say about that sense of like being in a room full of people and feeling alone is you don't get that in a House of Dank lobby, like, because it's, you know, you feel like just one of the people. And I think that's one thing I experienced on 420 last week when I stopped by the House of Dank on 8 Mile. And it was just, you know, community. I think you guys did like everything right you could have thought of. You had the ice sculpture right when you pulled up in the parking lot. That was all
Oh,
cool.
wow.
And then they had the vendors outside on the ice, and they had the DJ. And me, someone that's really into music, I was like the DJ's #1 fan, putting the hands up. And I didn't.
And it was cold and snowy, man. All right. Like,
Yeah, I was definitely rocking the Red Wings pullover. If you saw me, so I was built to stay outside on 420. Freaking weather won't hold me back from having a good time on 420. I promise you. And like just what was just like the idea going into like setting up the business model for the Detroit locations compared to like other locations in like Traverse City?
the business model, or do you mean specifically like some of the stuff we did on 420?
Or some of the stuff you did on 420.
Okay. You know, what we try to do is present an omni-channel experience really for all of our patients and customers at any location. So I think that whether you're shopping at HOD online or at one of our stores or getting a delivery, we're trying to deliver to you the same customer experience, okay? And I think that that's something that you see with a lot of retail and overall consumer-facing companies in any industry. So kind of with that being kind of our mission statement, if you will, we wanted to also deliver that same experience on 420 to each of our different demographic group of individuals that come and visit our stores. So that's really what started it, was that if you went to each one of our stores, each one had DJs, food sourced from local providers, be it caterers or food trucks. We had different models and different vendor days, but no matter which HOD you went to, we tried to show you that, you know, that you were coming to our house and this was our holiday and you were part of our family. So we tried to open up our doors and be generous in that way. So I think that, you know, you were able to go to our most iconic store, 8 Mile, which had the biggest party, but they were all absolutely fantastic parties and very similar in vein. But for some of the local differences, like I know up in Traverse City, they have an amazing bakery called Third Coast Bakery, and it is so close to our dispo. And first off, I'm a granola snob. I'm gonna be straight with you, all right? Like, I love me some real granola, okay? And so
And
I rolled up
noodles.
to our TC store and pulled in, and like, first off, the granola grabbed me, so it was delicious. And it's great coffee. So we worked with them to have them cater the event because, you know, again, as we enter into each of these municipalities and become a member of that business community, we're layering up the communities that we're in. We're in the cannabis community. We're in, the Traverse City business community. So we try to make an impact on each individual community that we go into. And we do so by working with local providers, I think, first and foremost.
That's really cool to hear. And it's just the community outreach and how important that is to you. And can you also talk to us too about, like, in Traverse City, the issue that was going on with rec and how you helped enable that?
Sure. Traverse City, like a lot of municipalities, both in Michigan and really across the country, look, this isn't easy. Okay, what we're doing here. I mean, we are creating a $100 billion industry and transitioning it from the black market to a regulated marketplace. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and we're going to break some eggs and do stuff wrong along the way. And that's both the industry as well as the state regulating bodies and the municipalities. And I think that what's going on in Traverse City is just a little bit of that early learning curve as cities across the state of Michigan in particular are trying to figure out, how do we come in for medical, and then now with the 2018 laws and now MRTMA being in place, how do we then transition over to recreational? And I think that when we talk about Traverse City specifically, I mean, Traverse City is a beacon of progressiveness up north in Michigan for sure. I mean, they voted for Prop 1 by an overwhelming majority in their city. So it was pretty clear from the start that city government had a mandate to allow both medical and adult use facilities. So they came in for medical facilities, and at the time, and it persists to this day, one of the first things that municipalities are worried about when they adopt these regulatory frameworks is, are we going to get sued? Are we being fair? Are we balancing what our existing residents want with what our voters want, with what the industry needs to really survive and be robust? And Traverse City landed at a number of having 13 medical facilities in their community. They decided to have a lottery so as to avoid being sued. And that was a really great way to do so. And we saw other cities do that as well throughout the state, where in order to pick their winners, they would just have people apply and then just do an old school lottery. So Traverse City did that successfully to pick their 13 winners. Where I think they ran into some trouble is they then tried to tackle the adult use section. And there was some turnover at their city council level. And, again, this is a very new area of law. And then when you have institutional memory change a little bit, their adult use statute ended up looking quite a bit different than their medical statute. And it was going to lead to a situation where many of those early investors in rehabbing buildings, in hiring employees, in giving back to the Traverse City community through the medical marketplace, we're going to be shut out of the adult use marketplace. And that was really the first municipality really in the state that almost went out of their way to say, hey, thanks for coming for medical, but we're now going to have 4 completely different businesses in completely different zoned locations allow adult use. Wow. So it was shocking. And again, I don't think that this was intentional. I don't think there's anything untoward going on behind the scenes. When you look across the state, I mean, there isn't a city out there that hasn't tweaked their ordinance and changed things as they've learned more. And you've seen this in Grand Rapids, and you've seen it in Warren, and we've seen it in Detroit. So, I mean, that's part of this organic marketplace ultimately that we're in of ideas when it comes to allowing these in your community to operate, if you will. So when they came in for adult use, some lawsuits followed. We were one of them that sued. And now what's going on is, and it's really, I think, the genesis is really your organization, but it's a number of individual licensees, dispensary owners in Traverse City that have medical licenses. We have come together to form the Traverse City Cannabis Coalition, and we have been working to, educate the consumer and the non-cannabis business owner as to what's going on. Because, again, we see it as pretty straightforward that, Traverse City is a world-class tourism town. All right. Yep. And this year, we are looking at what I believe to be the most lucrative tourism season in the history of Northern Michigan, with all of the pent-up demand from COVID and everything that couldn't get done last year is now being done this year. Absolutely. So we think it's really important to enhance the tourist experience. And I think there's a lot of data a la Colorado out of this, that cannabis drives tourism. And you already see Traverse City is very much steeped in wine culture, and they use that to bring tourism in, to encourage the spend on wine while there, to take some home with you, which is a little more problematic in our industry, but nonetheless, it's not unusual for these types of products to be a focus of tourism. So we've tried to educate both the greater Traverse City community as well as its elected officials on how positive cannabis can be on, the core economic driver in the city of Traverse City, which is naturally tourism. What we'd like to see is a mechanism by which the existing medical stores could begin to sell to this season's tourists, and that they also have a second period where some additional stores could be opened in some new areas that were previously verboten by the medical facilities, so that Traverse City can continue to have additional economic development where they want it, and they can serve their greater community. Because, right now, there isn't a single rec store in the Grand Traverse Bay, in Grand Traverse County, and it's costing them money, so some of this is a straight economic argument. But I know personally it is very nice to see, us and Sky Mint and Oz and Allswell and Lighthouse and a number of other Traverse City business owners kind of come together and collectively try to move the ball forward. And we think that it's that sort of coordinated action that your group fosters that is really what's going to kind of tell the tale as we face greater challenges in the industry at the state level.
Thank you. And we applaud and appreciate everything that you're doing, especially the community outreach and support and education. The education is so important.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. You guys are creating a movement, and we are super thankful for, companies like you guys to create this movement so we can jump on board and help.
We called it Cannabis and Croissants. We had a for the business community to come out. And you know what we learned? That they didn't know much. Not so much about cannabis, but many of the men and women we talked to just were unaware that the stores that were there could not sell to the greater public. They just weren't aware. So to Erica's point, you're absolutely right. Knowledge is power. And I think this is, and this would be, one of the things that I'd love to see our organization, take a stab at, is that I don't think the MRA has done a good enough job onboarding the municipalities. I would love to see a SWAT team of people from the MRA be able to come in and say, hey, you municipality X, Y, or Z, here are some model statutes. Let's host a question and answer session, at a couple of your board meetings. Because what ends up happening is this very laissez-faire system whereby attorneys representing private parties like me come into these cities, and we're immediately not trusted. Okay, like we're immediately, just for the money, just trying to sell weed, like that's it, right? So even though we're trying to be real with them and not skew what they're saying, because we've learned a long time ago that if I come in there and sell crazy, someone else is going to call me out and sue you, and nobody's going to get anywhere. All right, so if I'm in front of a governmental body, big or small, all I have is my own credibility. But it takes a while. You have to build those relationships. Whereas I think the MRA could turbocharge that. I mean, you look down at in the Metro Detroit area, Monroe Township is having a tremendous amount of trouble with very minor things regarding their ordinance. And, I have spoken at a number of meetings, and I know, my colleagues, other attorneys have as well, but it's not getting through to them. And you've got city and township attorneys that are very strong attorneys. But again, coming back to my original point, cannabis is all brand new. Nobody knows how to do this stuff. All right. So I would love for the MRA to get a little bit more involved. What about some advisory opinions that are going on out there? I mean, there are some very robust legal disagreements on the meaning of certain sections buried within MRTMA. I'm looking at you, Section 6B. But I would love to know what thinks of that, because we can debate and go back and forth as professionals as much as we want, but without the regulatory body giving us some idea as to what they think these sections mean, it ties our hands a little bit into how we can plan for the future, so that we can continue to grow our businesses at the end of the day and the industry as a whole.
Right. That is a great idea. And you never know.
Yeah.
And I know they got their hands full. It's not an easy job. The men in the MRA have done a really great job when you think about it. And when you look at the other states that have come in for cannabis, I mean, they're not doing it as well as Michigan. I mean, you can really see in the statutory framework how friendly it is to innovation and business and products, the things that you need to really build a long-standing industry. I mean, you know, when you compare that to some of the restrictions on products in, say, Ohio or Illinois, you know, they're in for cannabis, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? And that's a real point of pride, I think, for the entire industry in Michigan. I mean,
Absolutely.
As the laws change and we are allowed to export finished products to Canada, to Ohio, to Illinois, to California, you know, I do believe that Michigan is going to become known as really one of the cannabis innovators when it comes to products. And that is directly because of the way the MRA set up the licensing scheme. So it's not to make this a closed loop system, but be very inclusive.
Very true. And I keep hearing rumor, you know, that we're supposed to be bigger than Colorado. You know, why not?
There is not a doubt in my mind that we will certainly be bigger than Colorado. I mean, just given population size, we have 4.5 million people in Michigan than Colorado, and we do more tourism dollars per year than Colorado does as well. So, you know, I think Colorado was one of those states where, because they were early, they got a lot of press. But I think that if they were to vote it in tomorrow, it would just be state 37. You know, I don't think it has that sort of ability to change the market like, say, New York does. Okay, I mean, New York is, you know, the mothership, if you will. I mean, that's really going to change the marketplace, because, you know, those businesses and those brands that can succeed there, as Jay-Z tells us, if you can do it in New York, you can do it anywhere, right? So those businesses that are able to succeed there are going to have a huge leg up and down the entire East Coast. And I think that you're seeing that even with some of the West Coast brands pushing out. I think you're finally going to start to see some East Coast pride and some pushback where it's not going to be as welcoming to just be like, hey, West Coast brand, come on in and you know, sell to our customers. I think you're going to see some more authentic brands such as House of Dank, such as MKX, Hyman here in Michigan. I mean, there's a number of really strong Michigan brands that are out there doing this along with us. And I think that we're part of that kind of cannabis 2.0, if you will, across the country, that now that some of the East Coast, and we've hit, 36 states now, I think up to 44 states now have some type of legalized or decriminalized cannabis. You know, we're at that sweet spot where hopefully people will stop looking at California as being the tastemaker, if you will.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, people always look to California as a reference, just, you know, and just what they're doing. And I always hear that they're ahead, but I was trying to tell people that, hey, you know, what we're doing in Michigan right now, it took some time and we're not done yet. So like,
we're pretty progressive.
Yeah. We are very aggressive. I tell anybody I'm from Detroit or Michigan, they're like, oh, okay, let me back off for a minute. We're very aggressive, and we have a very tight knit cannabis community. We're better than Colorado.
It's not a competition, but we are.
Right.
Oh, come on. I love a good competition. And
that's the thing, you know, Detroit as a city is just so, you know, culturally rich. You just can't, you know, ignore that aspect about, you know, this beautiful state and, you know, the tourism in Traverse City that Mike talked about. Like, all of that just comes in, and you just can't sub us out, you know, not yet.
Exactly.
No, and Detroit is unique, you know what I mean? Detroit is very different from a lot of other, you know, I think Midwestern towns, even some that are as old as Detroit. I mean, Detroit goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. And because of its positioning on the water, it's always been a bit of a tastemaker, okay? Like, we've had trends in Detroit and in Michigan. I'm talking about going back to, you know, the 1500s, okay? Things would flow down the St. Lawrence Seaway, and we would see trends, alcohols, food, clothing, that sort of stuff flowing from New York way faster than they would ever get it in Chicago, St. Louis, or some of these other towns. So Detroit has always been a bit unique in that we're kind of New York or the Midwest, you know, to a certain degree, but we've always been a bit more bougie, if you will, than I think a lot of other traditional Midwestern towns. You know what I mean? We're more fashionable.
Right.
You know, we created techno. You know, we've got the auto industry, but, you know, Detroit is not a second tier city, and I think that goes back really hundreds and hundreds of years. So this entrepreneurialism and this innovation that is built into all of us who are from here, it really is built into us. All right. Like you can't escape it. no matter who you are and what your background is, that the way Detroit is positioned, it has always been and will always be kind of on the forefront of what's cool in America.
Right. Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
very true.
Absolutely.
And I do remember you saying earlier that, the House of Dank location on 8 Mile is the most iconic. Now, what components were like prioritized to kind of get to that level of like iconism for a dispensary? Because like you think about just Detroit and where to go. I mean, you can't not sub out House of Dank.
Yeah. I think that the reason that anything becomes kind of iconic is because it's authentic. When you really think about it, that, we didn't try to manufacture a dispensary to be an icon or for everybody to know about it. I think it's the idea that, my equity holders, the men and women that created House of Dank, did this way before it was legal. Let's be honest, okay?
Yeah.
So, House of Dank was not a name that was created by a bunch of marketing executives, on a Sunday, around a conference room table as they were trying to figure out a name of a cannabis company, okay? It stems from the idea that back in the trap days, it was a house and you got dank weed there, okay? So like, that when you have something like that, when you can take something that is real, all right, particularly in 2021 where nothing's real, everything we see in life is fake, right? Particularly if it's coming from corporate America. So when you take this idea that we didn't contrive this, it came unto itself because of what it was. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't set out to become House of Dank. We became House of Dank. I mean, it is what it is. So I think when you take that history and you take that transition that started from, this little house where you knew to get the dankest weed, and then it became House of Dank, and then you've seen, it change and kind of go into the regulated market, be it as a caregiver facility, dating back now, almost 15 years. And then now it's a fully regulated, MMFLA facility. And then as Detroit, opts in for rec. So, we're really one of the only original companies, that you go back 20 years on 8 Mile and you talk about like, where's the best place to get some smoke? And it's the same answer. You know what I mean? And I think that's what does it. You know what I mean? When you talk about, Katz's Deli in New York, it's not because it's the best pastrami. They've been there forever. They're the original one in New York. And I think that's what sets us apart. That, you can create great business models and you can create great brands, but icons are real. You know what I mean? And you've got to capture something within, the public that captures their eye. And we as men and women of business or marketers, we don't get to tell people what's important to them. They tell us what's important to them, and then we try to deliver. So it's really humbling to be part of an organization with such grassroots beginnings to see where it's become and really, believe that like we're doing it the right way. And we still put our patients first. I mean, at the end of the day, if there's a mission statement for House of Dank, it's to have the best product available for you to smoke, and that's been serving us well since day one.
And I can absolutely vouch for that. Working at House of Dank, when they were on 8 Mile, just that liquor store feel, that black market, they always had the best quality product, and it was always for the patients, getting them the best quality stuff. And, seeing them come a long way and where they're at now and just making a big movement is really nice to see. You know what I mean? Having work there, and, Mike doing really good things for them.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. And the other thing that's super important in something that that came out of the pandemic, which is in a way, a good thing, was curbside. We had to keep that continual flow of medicine. Can you tell us, what your experience has been with the curbside, and is everyone, liking it?
I think absolutely. I think that, curbside kind of plays into a number of different trends. I think, first and foremost, health. You know what I mean? With the onset of the pandemic last spring, we all want to stay healthy, and whether you are enjoying cannabis because you're a patient or just a recreational user, regardless, you want your acquisition experience to be clean and safe from any risk of catching the pandemic. So I think that Governor Whitmer, in conjunction with the MRA, really did the industry a service by relaxing those rules and allowing for curbside, because it also kind of falls into this other trend of, look, and again, in 2021, most Americans don't like people. They don't want to interact with people. All right. Like they want to interact on their phones. They want to do it via direct message or text or otherwise. So, particularly if you're under 30, like you ain't talking to a sales clerk. It's just not happening.
Especially when you don't have your meds.
Exactly. If you're old like me, you still want to talk to somebody behind the counter. But so I think shifting over to curbside kind of address those two things, greater market trends of people wanting convenience for this type of product, as well as, everybody staying safe. Now, I don't think that both myself, our team here, or really anybody in the industry expected it to be as successful as it ultimately has been.
Right.
I know that there are several stores in the Metro Detroit area that will likely never open their bud rooms, their showrooms again, given the ability of curbside to fulfill orders in that way. So, I still think that there is a place for in-store shopping. I think that in any industry, there will always be, men and women that prefer that experience. And I do still think that that is the best way to expose your customers and yourself to new products and learn new things is by trying to get out of your comfort zone. It's so easy for all of us, being on Amazon or, our own website on Dutchy, to just, well, I like this, I like that. And you just pick your 4 or 5 things, rather than sort of kind of walking around the store and seeing something that you haven't seen before and being intrigued by it ultimately. So I do think that there's a market for both, but I don't think it's ever going away. I think curbside is certainly here to stay. And I think that when you look at trends across the country, California forbade drive-in windows for years and years and years, but now those are now permitted. And curbside, it's really 6 of one, half dozen of the other, right? You know what I mean? Like whether it's a drive-through window or curbside, it's really how many steps you want the bud tender to take. There's no difference outside of that ultimately. So I think the curbside has been a huge boon and likely really helped to save the industry to a certain degree during this pandemic. I mean, we enjoyed a very robust year last year of growth, due to some of the curbside stuff that we were allowed to sell.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's just more proof that, this truly is a medicine, and it's helping to replace of alcohol and pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah.
No question about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the beginning of the pandemic, when there was just so much uncertainty, a lot of our customers that come to these dispensaries really rely, on these businesses to stay open, and the fact that we were able to provide that and ensure that, so they don't have to fall back on their on any kind of pill or something like that, is just a blessing. And I'm just happy that I'm in a position to just help people like that, and that's just great.
I think that curbside and the pandemic also allowed for some people that more traditionally were using the black market to medicate, kind of came over to the regulated market. And I think that part of that is the idea that, you could pull up, you knew that it was clean, that they were being inspected. The men and women that worked there, taking it very seriously. I mean, we have thermometers and a whole COVID protocol at every store and gloves for all the employees. So I think that particularly early, when we were all still disinfecting our Cheerios, and when we got them back right from Kroger, like, you remember last April was wild, wild, all right? You didn't go anywhere without your Clorox, So I think that because of what happened then, I'm not saying it turned the tide, but I do think that, one of the reasons we regulate cannabis is to try to eradicate the black market. And I do think that helped a little bit with that push. So at the very least, to try to introduce people to a new way to get their medicine or otherwise, and in a manner that's safe. So, hopefully if we're able to continue to kind of push the black market down and increase sales in the regulated marketplace, I mean, that's a rising tide should lift all boats.
Right, right. Well, and the other thing that curbside did too is that really helped people, in positions of power, let's just be honest, be able to come in and buy their medicine.
Yeah.
Animosity, I mean, no one knew who they were. They weren't out in public. They were in the car and going through that drive-through.
Yeah, and there's so many benefits to it. I think everybody one in a situation, I think some of the bud tenders felt more safe. They could do more transactions because I think, me being in customer service for so long, if I had to choose between, two situations, I would definitely choose taking, the extra steps to just hand somebody the product that they asked for, that they wanted, they know they want, they kind of want to just, bypass the small talk and just get their products. And then, for the customer experience, when you open up the shops again, they can get that, that customer relation base and really feel like they're, I'm getting that one-on-one time with the customer, and that's important too. So did you see a surge in or any declines in curbside when you opened the store lobbies back up?
Absolutely. I mean, the sales didn't change, but how they bought did. I mean, you certainly saw more and more people coming into the stores, particularly some of our new renovated stores. Gratiot down in Detroit is really a beautiful store. And, we've had a number of visitors come in to check that out ultimately as we're constantly sort of changing the look and feel of the customer experience in these stores. So I do think that there's been some change and people are anxious to get back in. But, my question to you is, I mean, how do you want to buy weed? Because we ask ourselves this all the time internally. I mean, there's this push toward delivery, and we see it with, I know you've seen the billboards of ease and coming to town and cannabis delivery coming to Michigan. Most of the businesses in Michigan also have delivery. What do you think, this esteemed panel, what is the future of cannabis sales? Is it a delivery-based market? Is it still people coming to stores? Put on your crystal balls with me.
I think it'll be wide range. Sorry, Isaiah. I think it'll be wide range. I know for myself, I am a huge connoisseur. I like to go in and see the product myself and see what I'm buying. I have a hard time buying on Amazon and not knowing what product, what the type of material it is or what have you. I like to definitely go in, but I know for, working curbside myself, there are a lot of patients that really enjoy the curbside and, they're maybe in a rush or, they might have a disability. They whatever the case is, I think it'll be all around wide range. I don't necessarily think it'll be one more than the other. I'm definitely going in the shops. I love talking to my product specialists and seeing my people and saying what's up and just seeing the product itself and seeing what's new. Because like you said before, the bud tender walks out and there might not be upsale because they forgot to tell the patients, there's a new product online or what have you. So I definitely think with that, that'll be, more in people walking into the stores to see the new products type thing.
Yeah, I personally want to go into a store.
Yeah, right.
I voice everything that Erica just said. It's the experience. It's the connection. You want to see what you're buying and get the education behind it, hear the story behind it. So
absolutely,
hopefully all three will, continue to be prosperous by all means.
And it took so long for us to be able to have this. So, yeah. For them to take it away and, for us to not come back full force, that's not going to happen.
Right.
If anything, you get more patients, you know what I mean? You get more than you had before.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's a comfort level at that point, people are more comfortable coming to the dispensaries. And again, it's education. It's understanding, cannabis is medicine and the education behind it and breaking down those stigmas.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Yes.
And to build on that, I talk about this a lot when I'm talking to different groups of people and whatnot, that, the cannabis industry is like the world's last analog industry to go global. All right. We should have done this 110 years ago when Coca-Cola went global and tobacco, we're a whole 100 years late to the party. But that puts us in a really cool spot in my mind, that we're the only industry left that's still growing, that you got to go talk to somebody. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I can't deliver this to you digitally. It's not, it's not an NFT. It's not fake art. It's not a DM. It's not anything. It's not ones and zeros reduced to graphics on a digital screen. You know what I mean? It's real, and I think that's something that, and now I'm going to put on my maybe I'm thinking too much or smoking too much hat, but I mean, for the love of God, we as humans, you need that interaction. All right.
Absolutely.
And, so much of our lives, particularly our professional lives, and now even our social lives, particularly if you're under a certain age, none of it's real. You never talk to anybody, you never see anybody, you never interact with another human. Everything is just, it's not even money's not real anymore, right? Like, we're to the point where literally cash is barely cash anymore. So when I talk to people, I talk about that, like, you're part of this movement that is one of the last places where, like, one human and another human really actually have to talk to each other, and be it from the growers growing something and then selling it to the retailers, and the retailers with the bud tenders, and the advertising restrictions on our industry waste even more communication on us. All right. So, I look at it as a real positive that, we may have a negative stigma to us, but in reality, we're likely the last kind of human to human business to spread across the world. You know what I mean? And I think that there's something to be said for that, and maybe I'm old fashioned a little bit, or just thinking a little too big, if you will, but I don't know. It means something to me. It really does.
I agree. I'm all
agree.
about that. I agree. I'm all about the personable experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the camaraderie between friends.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Building relationships, building friendships throughout the industry. I've met so many different really cool people, especially now working with MICIA. It's such a great, close knit community that we have.
Well, we're happy to have you aboard, Erica.
Hey, next time y'all see me.
That's right. The difficulties today.
It's
So,
okay.
Mike, did you learn about this glass shop that you have?
Yeah.
The famous glass shop.
Yeah.
I've seen this
you
built
want the
from the
long
ground
story or
up.
the short story?
Whatever you want to share. Let's hear it.
So ultimately, the glass shop is adjacent to our 8 Mile, our primary dispensary.
Okay.
And the root of the story is that it was a liquor store at one point. But when we were expanding the house to what it is today, it was too close under the city of Detroit rules. You could not have a liquor store and a dispensary within 1,000 feet.
Okay.
So the liquor store was purchased by our group and then converted over to what we call our glass shop. So that is where we have all of our gear, all of our apparel, and where we are able to do 7 days a week, I think 6 now. We have telemedicine visits with doctors. We're still getting out here, getting patients for medical marijuana cards. Okay.
That's
like we're still doing God's work out here,
Saving the world.
Yeah, one patient at a time for sure. But Michigan law does not allow those two things to, you cannot have a dispensary and provide telemedicine or these types of visits in the same physical location.
Right.
So we have the glass shop has become, our auxiliary location for all of our great clothing drops, where we do the telemedicine. But it's kind of like taking on a life of its own, if you will, because it's so prominent between there's like the parking lot in the middle, and then the dispensary on one side and the glass shop on the other.
It's such a beautiful building in there. I've seen it built from the ground up, literally.
Wow.
It's pretty cool, and we've got we do try to there's so much enthusiasm from everybody in this industry, from the consumers to those of us that are lucky enough to be working in it, that we're able to move a lot of apparel, frankly, which is great. I don't know if that'll last forever because I don't wear many Whole Foods sweatshirts, you know what I mean? But I do see the House of Dank once you move still. So like at some point it might not be cool anymore, but we're gonna ride the wave, while it still is, for sure.
Absolutely. I love that.
I think the apparel that House of Dank has is pretty dope, but the streetwear is so unique to Detroit that I kind of don't think it's going anywhere. I think that it has a place to stay. Some of the logos that I've seen is just so cool, and you could just obviously tell that not many people are doing it like that. I mean, and how the glass shop was acquired, and I was just upset that I didn't even have enough time to go in because the line was so long at my House of Dank. So that's like still an added trip. Like the next time I go down, I'm like, all right.
Isaiah, you come down here, man, and you can get the whole tour. All right, you let me know. I know we were trying to hook up on 420, but I was in 7 different stores on that day, kind of running around doing all sorts of great stuff, and I unfortunately missed you guys down there at 8 Mile.
Yeah, no, it's no big deal. And the expectations were depleting as time went on. You know, we were just kind of talking, and just to like bounce back on, just the experience. I had a chance to go into Stone Depot and talk to Erica because she was promoting. I remember Ryan's Redemption brand,
Yep.
and some people will walk in like expecting to get a stack of pre rolls, and they walk out realizing where their money went, uh, and Ryan's doing so many cool things with the Last Prisoner Project and the expungement program, and it's kind of cool to see like other brands have so many, at the end of the day, the same purpose, but their the drive is different, and it's more personal, and you don't get that through curbside, because it's just so more demand heavy, and I think that's a cool thing too. And like I wouldn't have known about the apparel if I didn't go in, if I just stayed in the car and just got all ordered. I would not have really seen that. And I think the apparel is definitely important. Um, in the drops too, just to stay up to date with the culture and the community around too. Because I mean, is it we're in Lansing, but I would still wear House of Dank, Detroit Bad Boys remade
Hell
hoodie.
yeah.
They're awesome.
Nice. Very
I
cool.
appreciate that, man. Sure. That means a lot, man. You know what I mean? We're certainly out here trying, and you're right. I think that, collectively the industry is has much of the same goals, but are kind of taking different tacks to get there. And I think that goes to some of the innovations we had talked about. It's not just about products and sales methods, but it's about philanthropy and building out brands, and really the way you want to communicate with the public, I think is really neat, and seeing how many different styles are out there. You know what I mean? But really kind of all that same kind of core message. I mean, look, this is a happy industry. We are not kind of chasing each other on competition too much. We're still very much in it together. I think you guys see that through your organization, that even the largest players in the state are very much still collaborating more so than competing, I think. And it's good to see. And I don't think that'll last forever. I mean, I think that, all of the men and women that are in these businesses, want to see them succeed, and know that they're going to be in a competitive marketplace. But it's nice to see, how collegial everyone is as we work toward, some of the bigger goals, particularly on some of the social justice things. And I think that some of those issues that are really tailor-made for cannabis, you know what I mean? Like, particularly expungement from cannabis crimes and those types. That's really low-hanging fruit that I think that the industry can kind of tackle together. And there's a lot of different ways to do that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's obviously proven, we can all have our own objectives, but synergy does exist, and we are stronger together. We can get a lot more done if we just band together and kind of focus on the common goal. But aside from that, just to talk about kind of the culture in Detroit, and like just how much great music has come from the city. I did hear you said something about some art festival that you're sponsoring. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, we've got the Still Loading Festival is coming to Detroit on May 22nd and 23rd. And what that is it was going to be kind of a precursor to Movement, but Movement was unfortunately canceled this year because of COVID. So it's kind of like Movement Light a little bit, but this is a really great event that we are proud to be a part of. And we're going to have an art installation out there. A number of artists and DJs from Detroit EDM world and producers are going to be at the event doing sets all day long. And then we are going to have on Friday, May 7th out in Centerline, and then the following Friday in Ypsilanti, and then the 21st, the night before the event, at our 8 Mile location. We're going to be throwing parties on Friday night with live DJs, live music, and not quite the same sort of thing you saw in 420, but we really are trying to drive some traffic to this Still Loading event. And it's not, it's just designed to be fun. It's no more or less than that. We want people to come on out and see some really cool art and hang out and check out the park. Again, it's in Beacon Park on May 22nd and 23rd. And, you can certainly check out our website, www.shophod.com, or you can check out their website as well, stillloadingdetroit.com, for more information. But we're certainly going to be hitting everybody up on social media and otherwise as we kind of turn the page from 420 and on to our next event. But it's just neat, that we're able to continue to do some of this stuff. And I know that, art and music and cannabis, I mean, that's, they just go hand in hand, right? I mean, that's I mean, it is what it is. So it's very much on brand. And again, part of that idea that, we are finally able to come out of our philanthropic shadows and start doing these events that you would normally see businesses do in while they're open. And it's only now been a couple of years that we've been regulated. So we're finally able to kind of to give back a little bit and be a larger piece of the business community.
Right. Well, we certainly appreciate everything that's coming out of House of Dank, and you're rocking it out there.
We're trying. We got a lot more stuff coming up. We've got some great announcements coming up about some things we're working with the city on, some social equity goals, and donating some money. So stay tuned for some really great stuff coming out. But we are going to continue to try to advance the industry, advance our company, and some of these great causes that I think are near and dear to everybody's heart.
Absolutely. We look forward to that. And, you touched on it a little bit throughout this podcast, but can you tell us, why it was so important for you to become a member of the MICIA?
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, first and foremost, this is the preeminent trade organization in our state in cannabis. And in working with Robin in particular, I've been lucky enough to work with her in a number of different capacities with my history as an attorney in private practice in the cannabis space. So watching what she's able to accomplish going into municipalities, big and small, and also working with the state legislators, it's really awesome. So I'm working with her and the team that she's built. The monies that we're charged for the benefit that we get is pennies when you really think about it. So that's the big thing. I mean, and look, the Chronic Cup, I'm a huge golfer. I'm ready. But it really does come down to this idea of having a great spokeswoman, and that's Robin. You know what I mean? And like I said, I've already been able to see her in action in a number of different capacities and context, and that's why we joined. You know what I mean? Like that we know we need someone to help us, and also it allows us to bounce ideas off of each other and meet with other great people within the industry who are like-minded. And look, I think you guys probably see this as well as I do. Consolidation is coming. All right, like you can see it in the industry that many of these smaller companies are figuring out that, hey, now that we're open, now what? You know what I mean? And you're going to see both at the MSO level and the stuff you read about on CNBC and also at the local neighborhood level, consolidation. And I think that one way to meet great people that you can partner with and build bigger organizations with is through these sort of informal events that the MICIA can put on, because ultimately, be it golf or a networking mixer that you guys did in Ann Arbor last week, any opportunity that you get to just get a sense of someone else allows you to maybe consider them as a business partner or take advantage of an opportunity in the future. So I think it's for all of those reasons that this was a pretty easy value proposition for us.
Well, we sure appreciate you and all that you do.
Yeah.
All you guys had to say to him was golf.
You know me too well.
Golf and noodles.
I do like noodles. I'm not gonna lie. That's a thing.
Good to know
Mike,
I'm the best noodles.
Oh, sorry, Mike. Where's the best noodle spot in Detroit?
There's one down in there's one in Madison Heights and there's one down in Corktown in Detroit, and it's really phenomenal. All right, if you're looking for ramen in the city and around the city of Detroit, like that is one of the best spots to get it.
Nice. Well, it's a date. We'll have to go.
He's been telling me about this place for the longest time, so let's go, guys.
All right.
So good.
I'm looking out for the House of Dank golf team because I'm assembling my own squad. So.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, look at that, Mike. Look at that.
I feel like a gauntlet's just coming on here a little bit.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you just recap and tell us real quick where all of your 7 locations are?
Absolutely. You can find House of Dank in 7 beautiful locations across the state of Michigan. We are in Traverse City selling medical only. We have a new store that is in Centerline that's both recreational and adult use. We're in Ypsilanti. which is both adult use and recreational. And we have 5 locations for you to visit in the city of Detroit, one on Livernois, one on Fort Street, another on Gratiot, the 4th in the Bel Air Shopping Plaza down on 8 Mile in Van Dyke, and of course the iconic original HOD on 8 Mile, which you would be hard pressed to miss if you're headed down it. So come on out and see us. If you tell them that I sent you, they may treat you worse. So I wouldn't do that.
Oh,
No.
well, thank you so much, Mike, and take care and much continued success.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Bye,
joining us.
Mike.
Bye.
Well, we thank you all for joining us today. Next week, we will be joined by our board member, Mark Passerini from Home of Medicine. And before we go real quick, we're going to give a shout out to Comcast Business.
Yes, I'd like to give a shout out to Garrett Smith, our local Comcast business executive in mid-Michigan. You can get assistance for your company with not only true dedicated fiber optic internet, but for your phones and cable and much more.
So look up Garrett over at Comcast for any of your needs. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. That's our show. Thank you.
Have a good day.